This is one of Johann Davis's earliest drawings. See the villain's eyes? They're larger than the other characters. They insinuate a slightly skewed perspective on how they see the world. Just off normal.
M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable has a lot of layers. It's why, despite it being a relatively self-contained tale of a man coming to grips with the realization that he may have superpowers, it's worthy of endless repeat viewings. There's always something more to unpack. On the face of it, you have the story of sad sack security guard David Dunn and the comic book connoisseur Elijah Price, who wants to unlock what he believes is David's potential. That relatively simple premise is driven with a quiet intensity by stars Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson, both turning in career-high performances. Quentin Tarantino, for example, was so impressed that he once remarked that this was his favorite performance from Bruce Willis ever.
Unbreakable, which I actually think, one, not only has Bruce Willis's best performance on film that he's ever given. I think he's absolutely magnificent in the film. It also is a brilliant retelling of the Superman mythology.
And that's from a guy who has, himself, directed Bruce Willis. Tarantino isn't the only one who has taken a liking to Unbreakable. While not a huge hit when it was released in 2000, the film has become a cult classic. In the glut of superhero movies released in the 21st century, Unbreakable stands out as being both among the first and more thoughtful of its peers. For these reasons, it's been praised by many as one of the best superhero movies of all time. But calling it simply a great superhero film detracts from its depth. In the abstract, Unbreakable is as much about perspective and the inevitable contrasts that arise from the different ways we see the world as it is about superheroes or comics. Which brings us back to Elijah's mom's point about comic book villains. The eyes of the villain are deliberately made slightly larger to symbolize the slightly skewed way they look at the world. Elijah's belief is that the only way to understand the suffering he's gone through is to find the exact opposite of him, his foil, his arch nemesis. In this quest to find meaning, he has driven himself to commit unspeakable evil. But David is also struggling with his identity. His problems are the exact opposite of Elijah's. They arise from rejecting his gifts. By burying them deep inside in order to try to live a normal life, he's alienated his family and caused an unfillable emptiness, a malaise that he can't work his way out of. But Shyamalan doesn't just tell us this stuff with dialogue. He finds ways to show it to us throughout the movie. His skill as a filmmaker shines most intensely when he's letting his camera tell the story. Notice the way much of the film takes place inside reflective surfaces, mirrors, windows, picture frames, as if to suggest a duality in the characters and between them too. And it's not just in props that Shyamalan pulls this off. The camera itself becomes a narrative instrument that reinforces the central theme, this tether between good and evil, throughout the film. In a brilliant motif, the camera is often inverted during times in which we are meant to be seeing the world through Elijah's eyes. Both as a child and then later as an adult, comic books are pictured upside down when first seen by Elijah, as the camera rotates around the frame. The effect isn't just fun to watch, and it is fun to watch. It's also giving us a clue about who Elijah is as a person. He has, to borrow his mom's words, a slightly skewed perspective thanks to his life of suffering, which colors the way he understands the world and his place in it. We see the inverted shot again while Elijah lays in pain at the bottom of a staircase. On his mission to confirm that David is, in fact, a superhuman, he gazes upside down at the glint of a black-gripped silver pistol just where David suspected it would be. The last upside-down shot, and the first in the movie, is perhaps the most confusing. It's not seen from the eyes of Elijah, but of David's young son. He is sprawled out upside down on the couch when he first sees the news report of his father's train accident. So what's going on here? Well, by the end of the movie, we have our answer. The camera is inverted because David's son wasn't watching a tragic accident, but the handiwork of Elijah. So while the perspective may be Joseph's, he's living, at that moment, in Elijah's world. The fact that Shyamalan puts this so early into the film, at a point that would be impossible to deduce on your first viewing, is a nice little present for those willing to rewatch the film with a more discerning eye. The audience gets to see all the ways Elijah's warped sensibilities taint the narrative. All that legwork culminates in one truly powerful reveal.
Now that we know who you are, I know who I am. I'm not a mistake. It all makes sense. In a comic, you know how you can tell who the arch villain's going to be? He's the exact opposite of the hero. And most times they're friends like you and me. I should have known way back when. You know why, David? Because of the kids. They called me Mr. Glass.
That's not just great filmmaking, but great storytelling as well. It's why, despite Shyamalan's misfires, his directing ranks near the very top of filmmakers today, and why, after 17 years, Unbreakable stands out as among the millennium's best science fiction films. I'm Jameson Parker, and this has been The Splice.